Hello there. They call me Mr. E. Now, nationalism gets a bad rap today because of people like this. But is it just about testosterone-fueled males exercising xenophobic rage? Isn't it about supporting the country in the Olympics and having a barbecue on your national day? Such an innocent view of things. So let me break it to you. The world is a nasty place, and we are constantly played like little chess pieces on the chessboard called Earth. Nationalism is the weapon of choice used by ruling classes since World War I to get the masses of people into enough of a frenzy to do whatever they need. It might not be directly, and they are crafty at how they apply it these days, but make no mistake, nationalism is not harmless. Its objective is to divide and distract. But where did this psychological weapon come from?
My name is Mystery. For reasons unknown, I have been thrown back into the past almost 100 years, and this is my story.
As we have looked at in a previous video, rulers had previously received the right to rule over the masses from God, but without a heavenly force to grant authority. How were rulers and governments going to continue to justify ruling over the people? The French Revolution provided a solution to this problem. Legitimacy for government rule could be found in the relatively new idea of the nation, meaning government authority could potentially be derived from a nation's spirit or the will of the nation. So, a nation's people, with their freedom and sovereignty, was a new collective force that could be exploited to grant the right to rule. A government would simply have to deliver for the will of the nation based on public opinion and public interest. So, as long as the state kept providing for this collective will, it had legitimate authority to control over people's lives. Simple enough, and something we take for granted today. But this is where it gets interesting. Now let's say you're an ambitious government or a ruling class with your own agenda, separate to the national interest. All you need to do is arouse the nation's spirit, inflame, excite, and provoke it until a nation's people are in a frenzy, singing to the anthem and rising to salute the nation's flag. At this point, people will unquestionably accept the nation's interest as their own, so long as people can be convinced that your agenda matches their own interests, that of the nation, then voila! This is how nationalism is used to convince people of anything required by governments or ruling classes, especially things that seem to be in contradiction to the people's actual interests. Typically, governments and media are in a position to engineer the will of the nation using effective propaganda. They set the issues of the day, and as long as it gets traction, it becomes the national interest. Nationalism, therefore, equals national pride mixed with some ulterior motive. So how does it work? Nationalism requires unquestionable support for your nation, even when it's unjust or wrong. It means excluding anyone from outside the country, putting national interest above other human beings. Nationalism therefore requires citizens to disregard their morality to support what the nation deems necessary. It does this by stirring up pride and admiration for the nation. If you are part of the team, you will swell with unwavering support for the home side and pity anyone who is not lucky enough to be one of you. This even justifies aggression towards other nations, especially from dominant ones who spread their freedom or their culture by invading other countries. Think the Iraq War, for example. This was completely justified and fueled by US nationalism. Now, this type of nationalism was used by the French to establish their empire under Napoleon's reign, and then by the Nazis in an attempt to spread German exceptionalism and fascism across Europe. Nationalism was used by the US government to convince its people to join both world wars, despite huge majorities of the population claiming they would never go to war again after the American Civil War. Nationalism is most effective today by stirring up fear. It is about being part of the club, and you definitely cannot have access to the benefits of the club if you aren't a member. So, there is a fear of migrants, foreigners, refugees, even ironically, indigenous populations are threats to the nation. They attack it from the outside and from within, taking up jobs, resources and services, even changing a nation's way of life and destroying national identity. But this is false. It is unchecked greed of economic elites and neoliberalism that has destroyed economies and culture. Migration helped birth the modern world we enjoy today. Mass migration populated the Americas and all the old colonies of the world. 150 years ago, there were nations but no passports. People moved freely around the globe. Average people had the freedom to go wherever they needed to find work and better opportunities. There was true globalization without nationalistic competition and exclusion. You think the ultra-rich are loyal to one nation? They can buy citizenship almost anywhere they want, moving around the globe wherever it suits them. All nationalism does is split the majority of the world's people, 99% of us, into manageable groups. Groups we are led to believe have competing interests. But it's all a great illusion. Your interests are no different to any other person living on the other side of the planet. You need housing, nourishment, work, leisure, community, comforts. So do they. People in all nations are simply looking to pursue their own interests, live a humane existence, and be with family, friends, and loved ones. But our ruling classes, politicians, the media, will have you thinking that someone in China wants to invade you starting World War III, someone in Russia wants to hack your data and fix your elections, and Muslim extremists from some rogue state want to terrorize you, destroying your liberty. We are used like pawns, spurred on by emotional responses caused by nationalism to help ruling classes obtain whatever they want and do their bidding. While we are distracted, hating on each other, they work in the shadows, concentrating their wealth and power and eroding our democratic institutions. Behind nationalism forever lurks ulterior agendas that are pushed through governments without scrutiny. Once we realize the only important difference in humanity is that there are those on top calling the shots and a majority who are powerless, not people with a different passport, is when real change will happen. Now, if you thought this was interesting, please give it a like and a share. And please subscribe for more. There is much to learn before we can unlock the revolution. Remember, I am, you are, we are a mystery.